remember the way the night wrapped around us, like it didn't wanna let go. Your hand resting near mine, moving slow. We didn't speak about tomorrow. We didn't ask what it meant. We just stayed inside that moment without needing intent. There was something fragile between us, something real. Not loud, not desperate, just something you feel. I didn't know it would become memory so soon. I thought we had more nights, more quiet under the moon. But life doesn't warn you, it doesn't explain. It just turns warmth into distance without leaving blame. Stay low, you don't need to search for where it went. Some love exists without an end. Stay low, you don't need to hold it to survive. Some moments leave you without an end.
I start wishing for another chance to make it stay. Some things are only meant to pass your way. You didn't belong to my future, you belong to my truth. You showed me parts of myself I couldn't see in my youth. Now when the world feels quiet and I breathe alone, I don't feel like I lost you, I feel like I've grown. Because loving you wasn't about forever, it was about being real. It was about understanding what it means to feel. Stays with me in every side. There was a moment I realized you were already gone. Even while sitting next to me, you were looking somewhere far away, somewhere I couldn't see. I didn't interrupt your silence, I didn't call you back, 'cause love was never meant to keep someone on track. I just watched you exist beside me for what I knew was the last time, trying to memorize the feeling before it slipped out of time. Stay low, you don't need to bring back what has passed. Some love is only meant to never last. Stay low, without intent. I stopped blaming the distance, stopped blaming the night. Some things don't end in darkness, they end in quiet light. You didn't fail me, you didn't lie, you just followed something I couldn't follow inside. And even now when I think of you, I don't feel alone. I feel someone who once shared something you couldn't own. You didn't stay to complete my life, you stayed to help me see that love isn't about possession, it's about being free. And somehow through losing you, I found my truth, not in holding on, but in letting go of you. Stay low. Stay low. And somehow through losing you, I found my truth, not in holding on, but in letting go of you. I remember the night you didn't say much, you just stayed close to me, like words would have broken something we both needed to be. The air felt heavier than usual, but not in a painful way, just full of things we understood but never chose to say. I think part of us already knew we were nearing the end, but neither of us wanted to force it or pretend. So we sat there quietly, letting time pass through, holding on to nothing but the truth we knew. Stay low, you don't need to force what wants to fade. Some love leaves gently without being betrayed. Stay low, you don't need to become who you were before.
You didn't stay to finish the story, but you gave it meaning. You gave it honesty. You gave it feeling. And now when I sit alone with my thoughts feel on regret, I feel someone who lives something real and won't forget. Not because it lasted forever, but because it was true. You didn't stay in my life, but you just stayed in my view. And somehow that was enough to help me. There was a night I almost turned around just to see if you were still there. Not because I expected you to be, but because part of me still cared. The road kept moving under me. The lights passed one by one, and I realized some journeys continue, even when something's done. Didn't lose you all at once. You faded in pieces in missed words, in longer silences. Until one day I noticed I wasn't reaching anymore. Not because I stopped loving you, but because I stopped hurting for. I still remember the warmth of your hand in mine. How something so simple could stop all of time. Could stop all of time. Stay low. You don't need to return that place. Some love lives on without a face. Ooh, without a face. Stay low. You don't need to relive every part. Some people leave, but stay in your heart. But stay in your heart. You didn't stay to see who I become, but you helped me change. You showed me how to be open without feeling strange. You gave me something I didn't have before, a mirror clear and true. Not to see who you were, but to see who I was with you. And even now in the quiet dark, when everything feels still, I don't feel abandoned. I feel strong in my will, because loving you didn't break me, it helped me see that I was capable of loving and still being me.
waiting. It just happened slowly, like winter turning into spring without asking me. There was no final decision, no clear goodbye inside my head. Just few moments where I hoped you'd still come back instead. I stopped checking for your name, stopped listening for your sound, stopped feeling that quiet pull every time I turned around. Not because you didn't matter, not because it wasn't real, but because some wounds don't close, they just learn how to heal. I still carry who I was with you, in the way I breathe, in the way I understand now how to let things leave. Stay low, you don't need to bring the past into today. Some love finishes when it fades away. Stay low, you don't need to become who you were back then. Some hearts only open to close again. They leave you softer, they leave you awake. They teach you how much of yourself you're willing to break. Not for pain, not for loss, but for the chance to feel no matter the cost. And even now when I drive alone at night, I don't feel incomplete. I feel someone who kept going on his own 2 feet. You were never meant to stay forever, I see that now. You were meant to find me and show me how to love without fear, how to lose without shame, how to walk away stronger but never the same. There was a softness in the way you said goodbye, like you didn't want it to hurt, like you were trying to protect something that already been burned. You didn't look away immediately, you stayed for just a second more, as if part of you was still standing at that invisible door. I didn't reach for you, I didn't ask you to stay, because love was never meant to beg someone not to walk away. I just stood there breathing, letting it become real, letting myself understand what I was starting to feel. It wasn't anger, it wasn't despair, it was the quiet acceptance that you wouldn't be there. Stay alone.
Stay low. You don't need to question what was true. Some moments were never meant to belong to you.
I don't see you as something I lost. I see you as something I live. Something that gave me more than it ever could give. You showed me I could open without falling apart. That I didn't have to protect every piece of my heart.
And now when I think of you, I don't feel pain or fear. I feel someone who once loved honestly when you were here.
You didn't stay long enough to become my home, but you stayed long enough to help me grow on my own.
And even now, in the quiet of night, I carry that truth inside. Some love doesn't stay with you, but never really dies.
The exact moment we became different. It didn't break, it didn't fall, it just slowly stopped feeling like something we could call. I still talked, still laughed sometimes, still knew each other's face. Something invisible had already taken its place. It wasn't distance, it wasn't lies, it was just the quiet truth that lives behind the eyes. I wanted to stop time right there in one of those final nights. Stop for anyone, it doesn't wait or bend. It just carries you forward until something ends. Stay low, you don't need to go back and understand. Some love was never meant to fit inside your hand. I don't hate who we became. I don't hate who you are. We were just two people who didn't get that far, but far enough to change something, far enough to see
that I was capable of loving and letting someone see me. And now when I think of you, I don't feel broken inside. I feel someone who survived what he couldn't hide. You didn't stay to finish the story, but you gave it meaning and start. You were never my forever, but you were part of my heart. And somehow even now, that still matters to me. I remember how quiet you came near the end. Not distant, not cold, just softer somehow, like something inside you already let go. You still smile the same way, still looked at me with care, but there was a space between us, and neither of us repaired. We both felt it, we both knew. Some endings don't arrive suddenly, they slowly come into view. I didn't wanna hold you tighter, I didn't want to pretend. Love was never meant to be forced, just understood in the end. There was dignity in letting go without turning away, in accepting that something beautiful couldn't stay. Stay low, you don't need to protect your heart from truth. Some love rise just to awaken you. Stay low, you don't need to rebuild what is past. Some moments are perfect because they didn't last. I don't regret the nights we shared or the way it became memory, because even in its ending, it gave something to me. It gave me honesty, it gave me sight, it showed me who I was in the quiet of night. You didn't leave me empty, you left me aware of how rare it is to feel someone truly there. And now when I walk alone through silence, I don't feel abandoned or small. I feel someone who loved fully and survived it all. You were meant to stay forever, you were meant to appear just long enough to make everything clear. I remember the last time I heard your voice. You sounded almost far away, like you were already somewhere else, even while you stayed. You didn't say anything that hurt me. You didn't have to try. It was in the space between your words where I felt goodbye. I wanted to hold on to something, anything I could keep. But love doesn't stay because you ask, it stays because it's deep. And maybe ours was never meant to live in open light. Maybe it was always something that belonged to the night. Stay low, you don't need to bring it back again. Some love completes itself without a plan. Stay low, you don't need to search for what is gone. Some souls pass through you and move on. Oh, I don't think of you as someone who left me behind. I think of you as someone who changed my mind. You showed me I could be open without fear of collapse, that I could love without control, without needing it to last. And even now when the world feels distant and I'm alone, I don't feel like something is missing. I feel like I've grown, because loving you didn't weaken me, it revealed my heart. It showed me I was capable of falling apart, and still standing, still breathing, still moving forward through the dark. You didn't stay in my life forever, but you stayed in my truth. You were never my ending, you were my proof. There was a night you almost told me something, I could feel it in your breath. You paused between words like you were afraid of what was left. I didn't push you to say it, I didn't need to know. Some truths are already understood without being told. stop trying to understand why we became strangers again. Some connections are not meant to be explained, they just exist, then disappear, leaving you quieter but more sincere. You didn't promise me forever, you didn't lie, you just existed in my life for a short time, and somehow that was enough to change the way I see that love isn't something you keep, it's something that sets you free. Now when I think of you, I don't feel loss or blame. I feel someone who once knew me without needing my name. I still remember the first night I dropped you off. You stayed sitting for a while, like neither of us wanted to break that fragile, quiet smile. You said drive safe, like it meant more than just the road ahead. Like part of you already knew some things were never said. I watched you walk away slowly, not turning around, and something in my chest shifted without making a sound. It wasn't pain, it wasn't fear, it was a quiet understanding that nothing stays here.
We don't get to keep every person who changes our life. Sometimes they just pass through you like day turning night.
Stay low, you don't need to hold on so tight. Some love exists just to show you light. Stay low, you don't need to follow where they go. Some people leave you more than they know. I stopped asking what I could have done to make you remain. Some stories are meant to be saved, some endings are pain. They're just truth unfolding slowly, helping you see yourself more clearly. You didn't leave me empty, street without meaning to. Like my body remembers something my mind no longer pursues. I don't slow down, I don't stop, I just pass by, watching the windows quietly under night sky. There was a time I knew exactly which light was yours, which silence meant you were sleeping behind those doors. Now it's just another place, another part of the road. But something in me softens every time I go. Now with pain, now with regret, just with the echo of something I'll never forget. Stay low, you don't need to return to who you were. Some love exists just to occur. Stay low, you don't need to hold it in your hand. Some things are never yours to understand.
I stopped wondering if you remember me the way I remember you, because memory isn't something you can make someone else do. But I know what we had was real, I felt it clearly then in the quiet.
I remember the way you leaned toward the window, watching the lights go by. Your face half hidden in reflection, like you were already saying goodbye. I wanted to ask what you were thinking, but I stayed quiet instead. Sometimes questions feel too fragile once they leave your head. There was comfort in that silence, and I needed to know, and letting the moment exist without forcing it to grow. You didn't belong to me, and I didn't belong to you. We just met in that small space with something honest grew. I didn't realize how much it shaped me until much later on. How someone can stay with you long after they're gone. Stay low, you don't need to reopen what felt true. Some love finishes perfectly without needing you. Stay low, you don't need to explain the way it ends. Some souls are not forever, they're just passing friends. I don't think of you as sadness, I think of you with light, like a quiet road I once traveled late at night. You were never meant to stay beside me through every year. You were meant to show me something while you were here. You taught me how to be open without consequence. And even now when I close my eyes, I don't feel loss or pain. I feel someone who once loved fully and would do it again. Because loving you didn't weaken me, it made me strong. It showed me where my heart belongs. Sometimes it's just a presence that slowly fades away. Stay low. You don't need to bring it back to life. Some love exists without needing to survive. Stay low. You don't need to know where it belongs. Some feelings live after they're gone. I stopped trying to understand it. Stopped asking why. Some people enter your world just to pass you by, but they leave something behind, something you can't erase. Not their voice, not their face, but the way they made you feel safe. And now when I sit alone in silence, I don't feel afraid. I feel someone who lived honestly even when it faded. You didn't stay to grow old with me, that was never the plan. But you showed me who I could be before I became who I am. And that quiet truth still lives in me everywhere I go. is something I lost, but something I know. I didn't expect you to change me. You never tried. You just stood beside my chaos and never asked me to hide. There was something in the way you listened that made me feel real, like my thoughts didn't need protection, like my wounds could heal. We didn't build anything permanent. We didn't make plans. We just existed in moments, held in our hands. I remember the way the night felt slower when you were there, like time itself was careful not to interfere. Until it was gone, until I had to learn again how to move on. Stay low. You don't need to chase what already lived. Some love stays with you in the way you forget. Stay. Doesn't make it small. Some of the deepest changes come from the shortest fall. You help me see myself without fear or disguise. You saw the truth in me without needing lies. And even stay to finish the story, but you helped it begin. You showed me I was capable of letting someone in, and that's something I carry forward in everything I do. Not because I still need you, because I once knew you. Stay. That's when I loved you the most. In that fragile peace, when nothing was certain, but nothing had to be. You didn't promise me tomorrow. You didn't need to. You gave me something rare, something honest and true. I didn't understand it fully then, how deep it went, how a moment so simple could leave such an imprint. Stay low. You don't need to go back and hold that night. Some love lives on without needing light. Stay low. You don't need to ask where it went. Some hearts connect without intent. I don't carry sadness when I think of you. I carry warmth, like remembering a place where I was reborn. You showed me I could be seen without hiding in my soul, that I didn't have to be perfect to be whole. And even though we became strangers again in time, you left something permanent in this life of mine. Now when I look at myself in the quiet, I don't feel alone or lost. I feel someone who learned what loving really costs. Not pain, not regret. I didn't realize the last 10 was the last we just